I thank the gentlelady for yielding, and also Congresswoman Esty, I thank you for your leadership in regard to gun violence prevention, all the work that you've done, and all of the effort you've put forward to try and bring some common sense to this issue. The speaker before me said that she'll never forget what happened at Sandy Hook and where she was when that tragedy took place. And I don't think there are any of us who know what Sandy Hook is, or were in Congress when Sandy Hook happened, or care about this issue, who will ever forget where we were. For me, I was home in my home state of California, in the Sacramento Valley, in a duck blind. I was duck hunting, and yes, I'm a hunter. I'm a gun owner, and I carried a weapon in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. I strongly support the Second Amendment, but I truly believe, I passionately believe, that as a gun owner, responsible gun owner, I have a responsibility, as does every responsible gun owner in the United States of America, a responsibility to speak out, to make sure that everyone who handles and owns a firearm does it safely, does it responsibly, and to do everything we can to make sure that people who shouldn't get their hands on firearms don't. And I know you can't stop everybody, but we should be doing everything we can to minimize the likelihood that someone who shouldn't have a firearm, a criminal, a domestic abuser, someone who's dangerously mentally ill, we should be doing everything we can to make sure they can't get their hands on firearms. Last week, families who lost loved ones in the Sandy Hook massacre came here to Capitol Hill to share their grief and to call for action to deal with this terrible, terrible thing we call gun violence. This was the day after the House passed the dangerous concealed carry reciprocity bill that would let criminals convicted of violent crimes carry loaded concealed guns in virtually every state in the country. Instead of honoring the 20 precious little children and the 6 brave and dedicated educators who were slaughtered at Sandy Hook, the Republican leadership put the gun lobby ahead of state laws. They put the gun lobby ahead of gun violence prevention. We've had 40 moments of silence since Sandy Hook. 40 moments of silence. Meanwhile, there have been 1,500 mass shootings since that awful day in December 5 years ago. And 64,000 people in the United States of America have been killed by someone using a gun. Last week, the families of those victims asked us one thing. They asked us to honor their loved ones with action, to stop the gun lobby's reckless and profit-driven agenda, to stand up for communities all across this country. As I've said before, I'm a gun owner. I've owned and I've used guns all of my life. I support the Second Amendment, and I'm here tonight to call on the Republican leadership to come to the table. Let's move common sense, bipartisan legislation that'll keep us safe, that'll keep our communities safe, and still honor the Second Amendment. I care about the people in my district, as I know all of you care about the people in your district. I have a son that's a deputy sheriff. I certainly don't want him to go out on a call and meet up with somebody who shouldn't have a gun. I've got grandchildren in my community. I certainly don't want them exposed to people who shouldn't have guns. So I'm here tonight to call on the Republican leadership to do something about this. Let's move this common sense bipartisan legislation. We can start by expanding background checks to make it harder for criminals and the dangerously mentally ill to get their hands on guns. This should be the first line of defense. Congress should make that happen. The American people, by like 92%, believe we should expand background checks. What is the harm in checking to ensure that someone is not a criminal or to ensure that someone is not dangerously mentally ill before we allow them to buy a gun and take it off into the community where they could possibly do some harm? We've put these ideas up before this leadership, and there's been silence. No hearings on the bill, no votes on the bill. Well, if the Republican leadership doesn't like our ideas about how to curb gun violence, then how about putting together a select committee of both Democrats and Republicans? Charge that select committee with working on the issue of gun violence prevention to come up with some ideas that will keep our communities safe. We owe it to the families of Sandy Hook and to all those who've lost someone to gun violence. We dishonor their memory when we do nothing, and that's what's happening under this leadership. We're doing nothing. That's shameful. We need to make sure that we do everything we can to help prevent gun violence. I yield back the balance of my time.